Sudanese novel History and Development Tayeb Salih 1929-2009 The Wedding of Zein Part 3. It is my great pleasure, dear audience, welcoming you to this new episode. Our journey with Tayeb Salih, with a special reference to his novel The Wedding of Zein, will continue today. In our third encounter with him, we meet him discovering, debating, experiencing the Sufi elements represented in the characters, represented in the events and situations that thoroughly and thoughtfully he had debated, subtly revealed and vividly manifested throughout the novel. As you listen, the audience, our meeting, our encounter with Tayeb Salih today, introducing his novel The Wedding of Zein, will focus on portraying the elements of tasawwuf in the novel. So if we have taken the major characters in the story or in the novel, we encounter with two significant characters. That is Zein, the protagonist, in addition to Al-Hanin. So those two figures have been manifested in the novel to represent Sufism. And as we have presented an episode about popular Islam and Orthodox Islam as has been expressed and portrayed in the novel itself, Wedding of Zein, here I would like once again to reaffirm that our novelist Tayeb Salih has chosen two characters, that is Zein and Hanin, to represent side and form of Islam that manifested clearly as part of Sufism and Tasawwuf. However, Tayeb Salih uses the Zein in the novel to stress the Sufi ideal of emphasizing the inner more esoteric expressions of religion. For instance, Zein is described as ugly, having 2 teeth, being skinny, feeble, and aloof, hopeless, romantic. This is contrasted with Zein's contagious love, his ability to make children happy, the inability of the rest of the villagers to control Zein's strings when tackling Saif ad-Din, and the villagers' view of Zein as an emissary for love, treating him as with Hanin. Salih uses Zein to stress the Sufi ideal of emphasizing the inner, more esoteric expression of religion, as I have stated. So, as we have stated previously in our second encounter with Tayeb Salih, Wedding of Zein, we have presented the major characters. Among those major characters was Zein. So Zein has been introduced and has been portrayed in the novel having 2 sides, and this is always we encounter writers and novelists in particular to portray the characters in the novel with 2 dimensions. And in fact, the first dimension is the outer appearance, and in this case, Tayeb Salih presented Zein as an ugly figure, while the other side of the very same personality as Zein, and here I'm targeting the speech on the inner appearance, which at the very same time, the second dimension, we find that Zein is an example of a good person, the messenger of love, the kind individual. And all these events have been manifested clearly on the dealings of Zein with the outcast, as we are going to have to take the villagers outcast, that 3 personalities which have been treated with indifference, considered to be insignificant personalities as part of the village itself. And here I'm pointing out to Ashmana, I'm pointing out to Musa Zalaim, I'm pointing out to Bakhit. So if we have taken Zein in this regard, we find him has been portrayed, as I told, with 2 dimensions. That is the outer dimension, the physical appearance, the outside appearance, and at the very same time, the inner appearance. And the inner appearance, by the way, reflect the good attributes of the individual. And in this regard, as if Tayeb Salih introduced Zein to show that we are, as human, carrying good inside us and at the same time evil. And in that regard, what is essential and what is important and the value of the human is there in the good attributes. The attributes of kindness, the attributes of mercy, the attributes of sympathy and grace to the all human, more specifically to that sort of insignificant individuals. Tackling, debating the areas of tasawwuf as part of the Wedding of Zein, handling Zein as a protagonist, as the major characters, trying to reach his dealings as part of what Hamid society, Here, we would like to go further in our discussion with him as have been manifested and as had been portrayed by the novelist Tayeb Salih in the novel. So Zain's interactions with the other villagers prove that there is more than just the outwardly representation and expression of people and religion. Thus, Salih challenges the reader to think beyond the external appearances and the exoteric and puts the reader in the framework to think about the esoteric in order to make his description of Zain as someone who lives by Sufi ideals more salient. And in this concern, just I would like to point out to another important point, and that is the speech of duality represented on the outer appearance, the inside appearance. In other words, the concept of esoteric in terms of exoteric. And this is the nature of things in the life. Life, it is always, we find it two appearances. If you have taken the individual, the human, we find the duality is there in what is known as al-zahir, what is manifested on the outer in terms of the inside, and that is al-batin. Moreover, Tayeb Salih highlights Zain's Sufi characteristics, and he makes the connection between him and Hanin. And Hanin to the villagers is the sort of a person that is to them or to the villager represented the other side of Islam, and that is Sufism. And to them, he is a wanderer, ascetic, a man of blessing. Another dimension for introducing Zain in the novel was there on his comparison to Al-Khadir. However, in the novel comparison of Zain to Al-Khadir, a figure of paramount importance in Sufi tradition suggests the potential of reading wedding through the lens of Sufi thought. I'm referring here to the Wedding of Zein, the novel itself. The notion finds ample support in the text, and the Sufi themes of Wedding of Zein have been identified by a number of writers. Zain is referred to as a dervish on several occasions. He has a special relationship with the mystic Sheikh Hanin, and he played the role of the pool, al-Qutb, which is at the very same time is the Sufi terms for the highest rank in Sufism. In the center of the circle at the novel end, the discussion that follows shows how Wedding of Zein engages with Sufism at both the referential level and the conceptual level. So Zain, the dervish, unites opposites, a living paradox, and as we are going to experience at the end of the novel, how Zain, this figure, have united all the opposites who gathered together to witness that remarkable night of his wedding. Zain has been portrayed in the novel as a constant reminder that the world is more than one. In the Sufi writing, or in the Sufi writings, the two elements which most urgently require to be made one are the present moment, in which humanity exists, and eternity which belongs to the divine. Every zahir, outward appearance, has its batin, inner reality. This concept is given expression through Then, who is both the greedy wedding crusher, and according to the mystic Sheikh Hanin, he at the very same time he is the blessed one of God, and this is the reality of life. And at the very same time, this is the duality as has been used to be expressed by Sufis. The other dimensional Sufi-oriented existence in the novel, pointing out to Zein as the protagonist and the major character in the story, Tayeb Salih introduced and presented Zein as the imagery of love, as a trumpet by which attention was drawn to the village daughters. And in this concern, Zein, ceaseless and shameless pursuit of beautiful women, points out to an important theme of Sufism: earthly human love as an expression of love for the divine. With this subtle hint, we arrive at a new character, Hanin, who strengthened Zein's belief. So, Tayeb Salih, as I told, introduces Zein as the representative to Tasawwuf, as a disciple to Al-Hanin, in the position of the guide and the Sufi Sheikh. So, if you have taken those two personalities, we took them in terms of Sufi-oriented path of Islam, while the occurrences of the events have been connected with them, mainly that extraordinary acts have been connected with those two figures, more specifically with Al-Hanin, who consider furthermore as a protagonist, as the major character in the story. He's the major character, by the way, in the story. So just here I would like to comment on this personality in order to connect the events that have been occurred and taken place under their own control. I'm referring here to the extraordinary acts that have taken place in the village of Fort Hamid. Hanin is the then epitome of Sufism, another representative of Tasawwuf in the novel. Who is he as has been manifested and portrayed in the story, in the novel, a pious man wholly dedicated to his religious devotions, disappearing for 6 months and then returning. What did he do during those 6 months? No one knows. Hanin seldom talked to any of the villagers, and if asked where he went to for 6 months of the year, would make no reply. The portrayal of Hanin as such an isolated yet incredibly spiritual figure in Salih's novel, referring to the mystical aspect of Sufism, in which the understanding of humanity and God through those or through close observation of nature is a major component. Unfortunately, Sufism does not seem to be fully understood by the villagers, which shows that in reality Sufism is only a practice of the minority and not the mainstream. So Tayeb Salih has introduced and presented Hanin to denote to that sort of ascetics known in Sufism as wanderers, those who practice wandering, suwah, and such a type of characters in our Sudanese culture, in our Sudanese society, is observable, existed, and part of the Sufi culture. Wherever you go, you find such a type of individuals. I'm referring here to Sufi wanderers scattering around villages, around even cities and towns. So Tayeb Salih celebrated such figures in our society. To him as has been manifested, as has been portrayed in the novel, the only thing that Hanin carries with him in his wandering is his love for God and his love for others. He simply goes where his heart is telling him. He is a very mysterious character in a small village where most people know each other. Hanin went around and would meet up with a group of those itinerant holy men who wander about devoting themselves to the service of God. As part of the villager knowledge that Hanin and then always used to sit together, and initially, upon his returning back from his wandering, first of all, what he used to do is to make the visitation to Zein at his home. And this is something strange, and people never understand such a relationship between the two. And more surprisingly, Hanin would not partake of food in any house but Zein. The people of the village tried to learn from Zein the secret of the relationship between him and Hanin, but he would never say more than the words, Hanin is a man blessed of God. In turns, Zein himself is believed to be a mystic character. He is a very close friend of Al-Hanin, who calls him in turn the blessed one of God. His close friendship with Al-Hanin made people believe that he was one of Allah's saints. Although he is the fool of the villagers love him, and his presence always brings happiness, laughter, and vigor wherever he goes. A miraculous strength follows his weak body when he is angry. Again, to speak about Zein, the importance of Zein in the novel and his role is revealed in its being an element of unification rather than separation, one of love rather than hatred between the various strata of the Sudanese society. And the narrator says, in his sweetheart this time was a girl from the Bedouins who live at the outskirts of the Nile in the north of Sudan. And some of these are the Arabs of Al-Ghuz, who do not marry with the native people, as they consider them pure Arabs, and the local people consider them as rough Bedouins. But Zein broke this barrier. This happened to him when he went one day to the parts of the Ghuz group, where one of their girls, Zein, is the misery of love. So in this concern, Tayeb Salih furthermore portrayed Zein, as I told shortly, as the misery of love. Wherever he goes, he discovers beauty, and in that regard, he is the source of beauty, and he is the source of happiness. Knows no boundaries, knows no tribes, no races, just his a misery of love. Discovers beauty to the seekers of love and beauty. Of the events that reflect the miraculous power, the miraculous acts that have been carried out via Al-Hanin was his famous supplication and prayer to the entire village. So Al-Hanin blesses the entire village. And in this concern, Tayeb Salih describes the scene as a spacious night between summer and autumn, just a little before the evening prayer. So if you have taken before the evening prayer, this is a time in which supplication is used to be accepted. So Tayeb Salih shows Hanin's ability to interact with the divine is highlighted and heightened during a time when not only the seasons are changing, but also the day itself is changing tonight. Thus, the change in the season and day are used as symbols for the prediction of the upcoming miracles or miraculous change in the village and the change life of Zein as part of the village inhabitants and figures. So in this concern, just I would like to point out that the incident of Zein with Saif ad-Din, in which they were in conflict and quarreled. The narrator here in the story has stated that Zein is near to end the life of Saif ad-Din. Suddenly, Hanin appeared into the scene while addressing Zein, "O Zein, oh God bless, the God bless son, leave him." So Zein, by the way, pardon and forgave Saif ad-Din. The very same scene, the villagers were in a promise of a promising year that you have been used to be called the Hanin year, in which he supplicated, as I told, he prayed for the entire village, and as a result of that, bounties have poured down to all the village inhabitants, and that is included even their animals. So such year have been still in the memory of the villagers, and they never forget it. They name it the year of Al-Hanin, Am Al-Hanin. So these two incidents, by the way, the incidents of praying for the old villagers and the incident of Saif ad-Din and Zein has changed the situation entirely. For Saif ad-Din has repented from the evil acts, from the evil deeds that he accustomed to do, and at the same time here he has encountered and experienced rebirth from evil doing and evil doer to the fault of righteousness. While, as I told, the villagers' life has been changed as a result of the supplication of Al-Hanin, and the year to them, lovely, call it the year of Al-Hanin. The audience shared part of the Sufi elements that Tayeb Salih has portrayed, has discussed, manifested in his novel Wedding of Zein. And what I have shared, in fact, represent, as I told, parts of Tasawwuf and parts of Sufism represented in the characters and the events that have been taken place as a result of those two characters, more specifically Zein and Hanin. And here, what I would like to conclude with is that Tayeb Salih, as I have presented his biography in 2 episodes, he expressed his fondness, he expressed his admiration, he expressed his attractiveness to Islamic mysticism, as he has personally stated in an interview that already have presented and introduced in our introduction to his biography in part 1 and part 2 as well. So, showing Sufism in that way, in fact, is a recognition to that sort of Islam, to that form of Islam, which has its eternity in the country. It is magnificent role on the dissemination of love, on dissemination of tolerance, on dissemination of the moderate way of believing on the teachings of Islam. By this, the audience, I came to the end of the episode till seeing you in our last encounter with Tayeb Salih, Wedding of Zein, in our fourth encounter with him. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.